What's up everybody, I'm Duncan and welcome to another of my Ultimate Monster Hunter World Monster Guides. Today we will be covering the brand new and incredibly scary Kulve Taroth. Despite the fact that Kulve Taroth is an incredibly unique monster who has a lot more to discuss than most monsters in this game, we are going to start it off how we always do, and that's looking at Kulve Taroth's weaknesses and resistances. The in-game guide shows us that basically the entire front end of Kulve Taroth are her weak points. Her horns, chest, face, and legs are all weak points, with a 3-star weakness to impact and slashing on the head and a 2-star weakness to those everywhere else, whereas shots have a 3-star effectiveness on the chest and a 2-star effectiveness on the horns, face, and front legs. When it comes to elements, Kulve Taroth has 2 unique states, one when she is covered in gold early on in the fight, and one in the final phase after you've unleashed her and she no longer is covered in gold. When she is covered in gold, she has a 1-star weakness to fire, a 2-star weakness to water, a 3-star weakness to thunder, no weakness whatsoever to ice, and a 1-star weakness to dragon. Once you have shattered that gold and unleashed Kulve Taroth in her true form, she has no weakness to fire, a 2-star weakness to water again, no weakness to thunder, ice now has a 3-star weakness, switching with that thunder weakness while she's covered in gold, and dragon has a 2-star weakness. There is also a unique mechanic for fire weapons where they will cause her to become molten more quickly. Molten is a state she enters during the hunts that's similar to rage mode, where her entire body becomes a weak point, so it is quite effective to make her molten more quickly. I'll be covering the molten state in a little more detail later on. When it comes to ailments, she does have a 1-star weakness to poison, sleep, paralysis, blast, and stun. That does mean that they work, and they can work incredibly effectively. There are really good points in the hunt to put her to sleep and to paralyze her, and I will point them out as we move along through this guide. So please keep that in mind. Light bow gunners, please do bring your status ammo. Normally in a monster guide, this is where I would jump into explaining all of the monster's attacks in detail and how to deal with them. However, with Kulve Taroth, there is a lot more to explain before I do that. Kulve Taroth is Monster Hunter's first ever siege monster. This is a monster that becomes easier the more people you have in your gathering hall, and up to 16 people can contribute to the same monster. However, you are still limited to 4 players per party, so you're hunting it in a party of 4, but the other 3 groups of 4 in your gathering hall can help you make the monster easier. This is achieved with 2 gauges that you fill as a gathering hall. They can be filled across multiple hunts, and they will only reset when at least one group is successful in breaking Kulve Taroth's horns. At that point, everyone can claim their rewards from that Kulve Taroth siege. That siege is over, and a brand new siege can be started with new gauges. The 2 gauges are your pursuit level and your reward level. The higher your pursuit level, the easiest Kulve Taroth is to beat. Her parts become easier to break, and the game gives you much more time to defeat her. This means that over multiple hunts you can build up your pursuit level until she's finally easy enough for one of your parties to break the horns, or preferably, if you're well organized and all parties set off at the same time, for all of your parties to break the horns. Your reward level does exactly what it seems. It goes up to level 17, and it increases the number of rewards you get upon a completed siege. You want to get this to at least 15 to have really efficient siege hunts. Now we need to talk about how you fill these gauges up. They both get filled by completing the same objectives, but they actually work slightly differently. Your reward level is unique to you, whereas the pursuit level is Gathering Hall universal. Any points that you or your squad gains for doing any of the objectives that are listed on your screen right here will give you the full points towards both your pursuit level and your reward level. In addition, any of the objectives completed by other squads in your gathering hall will give you the full points towards your pursuit level, but will only give you partial points towards your reward level. That means you are much more heavily rewarded for completing objectives yourself in your own squads, so that people can't leech or be lazy and still get maxed out rewards. If you decide to leave the gathering hall at any time, your Kulve Taroth siege will be ended, and you will be given rewards based on your current reward level, whether or not any party broke the horns. So if you can get your reward level to 15 and then unfortunately you have to leave, then you can just go ahead and collect, although that is very difficult to do without breaking the horns entirely, as that is worth 500 points. With that said, as you can see from the list, it is actually incredibly important to break as many parts of Kulve Taroth as possible. So if you have the part breaker skill available, it's actually great in this situation, one of the best skills to slap on your armor set, especially at lower pursuit levels where the parts can actually be very difficult to break. The other thing that makes siege monsters, or at least Kulve Taroth, unique is the fact that she's fought in different phases, and in each of those phases has unique behaviors and is fought in a unique area. The first phase is fought in the maze of Area 1. Kulve Taroth will wander around Area 1 quite slowly, occasionally attacking, but this is very much like your Lao Shan Lung, where you can just wail on her as much as possible. You want to make sure that you're using environmental traps. There are 4 rock archways that you can shoot with your slinger or a bow to knock down on Kulve Taroth's head, dealing 1500 damage and knocking her down if they hit her head or body before she starts going for a dig animation through one of the rock walls. There are also several cannons in the area that you can use to fire cannonballs at her for a full 350 damage per cannonball that hits. You can do a huge amount of damage to Kulve Taroth with these traps in the first area, and even at Pursuit Level 1, I fully expect all of you to be able to drive her into Area 2. You will increase your Pursuit level as well by collecting all of the footprints and the gold shards that she drops along the way, so definitely try and do that even though they don't increase your reward level. Once you've done enough damage in Phase 1, Kulve Taroth will move into Area 2 and you can start with the actual fight. In this area, Kulve Taroth will actually start using her attacks on you, which I will cover in much more detail later, but this is the area where you want to be mounting Kulve Taroth as much as possible. There are ledges everywhere and wedge beetles that you can use to hook on, and if you do manage to get a mount on Kulve Taroth, it will almost always force her into a molten state. As I mentioned earlier, once Kulve Taroth is molten, it is incredibly easy to do damage to her as her entire body turns into a weak point. This is a really good opportunity to break both sides of her tail, as her tail is incredibly difficult to damage when she is not molten, so take advantage of that. It's also important to note that if you hit Kulve Taroth in the chest a good number of times, she's also more likely to go molten from that, so not just fire weapons can accelerate the process. This means that if you have not yet got the tail break after she stops being molten after your ride, you can just hit her in the chest, getting those chest breaks and triggering a second molten state. If you make good use of those wedge beetles and ledges for easy rides, you should be able to get through this stage quite easily at Pursuit Level 1, but if you don't worry about it. It's fine if Kulve Taroth flees at this point. You should have built up your Pursuit level enough that you can drive her into Area 3. In Phase 3 of the Kulve Taroth fight, she doesn't change that much from the Phase 2. She's a little more aggressive and seems to roll more often, but it's mostly the arena that changes. You're going to need cool drinks here as you are fighting in a lava arena, and this is where you can get huge amounts of damage on Kulve Taroth from the environmental threats. First things first, there are stalactites attached to the ceiling. There are a total of 3 of them, and just like the rock ceilings in Phase 1, if you drop them on her head with a slinger or bow or bowgun, they will do 1500 damage to her and knock her to the ground, making her very easy to damage. There are also 2 lava pools that will erupt periodically. If you can keep her on the lava pools, preferably knocked down or paralyzed, she will take 300 damage per tick, which can add up to over 2100 damage per eruption quite easily. This will also cause her to drop a bunch of shinies, which are great because the Kulve Taroth shinies can actually get you gems if you're luckier than I am. It is almost always in this area that a Pursuit Level 1 hunt will end. It is possible to actually beat Kulve Taroth all the way at Pursuit Level 1, but it is quite difficult, so don't feel bad if Kulve Taroth runs off quite quickly after reaching this room. In order to move to the final phase of the Kulve Taroth fight, you have to unleash her true form. This is done by dealing enough damage that her golden armor breaks, and it will trigger saying Kulve Taroth has been unleashed. At this point, she gets much faster and much more aggressive, and will melt down the barrier into the final room, which is where you will have your final showdown with Kulve Taroth. This is a great hunt and one of the most exciting things that Monster Hunter have added in a long time, so enjoy it when it happens and pursue her into the 4th and final room. For the final phase of Kulve Taroth in the final room, you really want to be attacking her horns. Damage on other parts of her body might help by tripping her or breaking her tail for reward points, but they won't actually get you the win. The only way to beat Kulve Taroth is to break her horns off, so if you're not attacking her horns in the final room, you're actually generally wasting your time. You can use the central rock to use the run-up aerial attacks, as well as 3 rocks around the edge of the room to do the same, and that will allow you to reach the horns quite easily. It's also a good way to get a 2nd or 3rd mount for the hunt, and get her knocked down to allow your team to go crazy on those horns. This is the point that I would recommend putting her to sleep and bombing her. Excluding gun lance shells, explosives do double damage to Kulve Taroth, so it's a really good time to get her asleep, get those horns bombed, and do maximum possible damage to those horns for a really quick, efficient horn break hunt. This room can become much more dangerous if Kulve Taroth uses her lava pool attack to melt all of the gold in the room, and molten gold will start dripping from the ceiling. This can be incredibly damaging if it hits you, so watch out for the environmental damage that she decides to get you back with after all of that environmental damage we've done to her throughout the hunt. Once those horns break, that is the end of the hunt. You'll be able to get 2 calves from each horn, and of course, you'll be able to claim your rewards in the Gathering Hall after the hunt, giving you all of those super cool relic weapons that you've been looking for. That may be the end of the hunt, but that is not the end of the guide, because the final part of this guide is going to be what is normally the middle part of the guide, and that is going to be talking about Kulve Taroth's attacks and how to deal with them. Kulve Taroth actually has quite a limited move pool. All of these new mechanics make it a little bit easy to miss, but the fact is that she doesn't actually have that many attacks. Starting off, we're going to talk about her slam and swipe. She slams her foot into the ground and then swipes it around in a 70 to 80 degree arc. This can be quite damaging and does a lot of knockback, but it isn't the most dangerous attack in the world. Roll out of range, or even easier, roll under her body and it won't hit you at all, and you'll easily be able to continue wailing on Kulve Taroth. It's a good opportunity to position yourself under her chest to hit her in the chest and trigger that molten state. She also has a basic swipe where she doesn't slam her foot into the ground and instead either swipes forward or to the side. This attack does very little damage and is very quick, so watch out for it. The second attack we're going to cover is her TailSwipe. Similar to the slam and swipe, she pulls her tail back and then sweeps it around, almost actually reaching the opposite side and front of her body with her tail. This has a massive hitbox, but again, doesn't do the most damage in the world, and is easy to avoid just by getting under her chest. Being under her chest is actually an incredibly safe place to be with Kulve Taroth, and it's a good place to be hitting, so it is a focus to get under that chest, get safe, and start wailing away. The third, and by far the most annoying attack that Kulve Taroth has, is her roll attack. There are two variants of it, one where she just bucks up and rolls on the spot, and the other where she will charge forward a short distance and then roll. This roll is the Plesioth hip check of Monster Hunter World, and veteran hunters are already groaning, but let me explain. This roll has the most broken, disjointed, non-realistic hitbox in the universe. She can hit you from the other side of the map with this roll. I swear you can be in base camp and she's in area 4. She rolls one time and it's like you've carted. It is crazy how far this roll reaches out from her body, so please do watch out, guys. Try and roll through her roll, as if you get through one of the hitboxes, it seems to ignore the rest, or you can just block it with a shielded weapon. It's a devastating attack, it's the most annoying attack that she has, and it does a lot of damage, so watch out for the big girl rolling over on you. She also very rarely does a body slam attack, where she'll rear up on her hind legs and slam her body into the ground. Obviously, you're not going to be safe under her chest for this attack, so just get out of the way. It's very slow and it leaves her exposed for a long period afterwards. The final physical attack that she's able to use before she's unleashed is a small chomp, where she will lean back and then step forward and chomp in front of her. What you want to do is roll away at a 90-degree angle. This is one of the few attacks where you won't be safe if you're right in front of her chest, so watch out for it as it does come out pretty quickly. Kulve Taroth has 3 different fire breath attacks. The first is super simple. She turns towards a player and unleashes a very quick straight line fire blast towards them. This is definitely her attack with the least tell, and you have to have lightning quick reflexes to dodge it. It will do a lot of damage if it hits you, so watch out for that quick turn because it means she's about to unleash a beam of death upon you. Luckily, it has a very narrow hitbox, so you don't even need to roll perpendicular to it. Just a roll in any kind of diagonal away from it will get you out of range, so don't worry about it too much, just be wary of that quick turn. The 360 no scope is real, and she really can take you out very quickly with this attack. Her second breath attack is her small lava pool. She will lift her head away from her body at about a 70-degree angle and breathe lava at the ground, forming a pool of molten gold which will hit your hunter for a huge amount of damage about once a second. And the only real tip for this is get out of it fast. If you're in it for more than 2 or 3 ticks, you are going to die. I've seen many slow weapon users get caught up in this, be unable to sheath their weapon in time, and end up carting. So have your life powders ready, as it may grant one of your teammates that extra second they need to dive out of the pool. There is an additional tech here, which is while this move isn't blockable, if you do have the guard up skill, you will be able to block this attack, and while it does drain your stamina, if you block while moving with the lance or gun lance, you will be able to slowly regain stamina as it chips away, and easily get through all of this without any guard plus skills or stamina assistance skills. Her final lava breath attack is her ultimate magma pool. She leans up on her back 2 legs and breathes a massive beam of magma down at the ground, creating a huge spreading pool of molten gold. This is very similar to the previous attack, except the range is much greater and the damage seems to be a little higher. So the same advice goes. Get out of there now, do not be in that pool of death, and have your life powder ready for your slower friends. Again, if you have guard up, you can block, but you don't need any guard plus skills, as you can move while blocking and regenerate that stamina. When Kulve Taroth is finally unleashed, she does gain a few new moves. The first is a long distance head charge, where she lowers her head to the ground and charges forward a long distance movements, and the second is a weird head swipe back and forth where she slams her horns into the ground and swipes from left to right rapidly. Both of these attacks can be avoided by being away from her head, so roll away and focus on getting your aerial attacks off. That's what you should be doing in this room. You should be rolling off that cliff edge and jumping on her and getting that mount, getting a knockdown, and getting those horns snapped off. I really hope this guide helps you guys beat Kulve Taroth and gather all those awesome relic weapons. Let me know down below how jealous I should be of your amazing relic drops, or if you get more than one gem in, I think, 55 hunts now, then let me know and I'll be jealous of that too. Thank you so much for watching, and keep hunting, guys. Alright then, guys, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, you can click up here to see more videos of this type on my channel. If you want to check out something else a little bit different, then you can click down here. And if you want to see everything that I upload, you can click the subscribe button right here.